Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, we're back in studio. Do you know what that means?
I can't hear.
Technical issues. Well, that's the one thing we did not test.
My hearing.
You put your headphones in 4 times in the last 30 minutes. Not once did you say, I can't hear the music.
Well, I could hear the music. Now I can hear it. Now I can hear everything.
Now that I'm turning things up. But yes, technical issues. We're having all sorts of fun.
It is
over here.
It is great to be back here in studio.
Yes. Once everything gets set and ready, it's going to be beautiful. I've also heard some great things about things that I'll be working on in the future. If you are watching along on our Facebook or YouTube pages, please let us know if the audio quality is good for you. That is very, very important. Very curious how everything works. When we were playing the music, it had an echo to it. We were turning things on and off. The echo went away. I still have zero clue what fixed it. But yeah, let us know if it's working. Also,
welcome to being in this.
If you are listening on the brand new LCWarriorRadio.com website, welcome in. I apologize for interrupting your music over there. Very cool website that they are continuing to build over there. You can kind of see the beginning workings of that. I'll give you the entire schedule of all the other shows that are going on at LC, along with some other things that they've been working on.
Love the design. Myself and Dave walked today up there at school, took a few minutes and skated through the website and looked at the logos and all that. So excited to see where LC Warrior Radio goes here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to continue to build, and that's the exciting part. We had our first meeting yesterday, had a few people show up, so excited to see what is going on there. Sounds nice and clear. I appreciate you very much, Dwayne, for that, because that's the one thing is once we start, I can't check, and that scares me. And being on just at home, which we've been for months, we could test all these things and check things out, and everything was running.
We're getting to that
fine.
point, I think, that we can start thinking about maybe we need to bring in a producer and start. Man, it's just
Maybe
getting that way.
Anyone smarter than me, which there's a lot of you out there in the universe, let me know if you are available in the LC Valley.
Anytime anybody says that, I feel like, are you smarter than a 5th grader?
No, I've played the video game and I have lost many times. I am not smarter than a 5th grader.
Hey, I feel that way when I'm at school with 7th and 8th graders. I mean, sometimes some of the things they say, it's a little crazy. But
we are back in the studio, very, very excited. That part of it means that we have to get away from guests for a little bit, because the soundboard to my left over here may have been here at the beginning of LC Radio, back when it was KLCZ.
Right.
I mean, it was KLCZ up to 2 years ago, but back in like the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So it has run its course and now can only really run 2 microphones instead of the multiple that we were able to have. They have a new soundboard. They just have to find somebody and have the time to get that all switched out. It's more of a digital soundboard, so that could create some other issues. But that is definitely in the works. Very excited to see where this year the R&R Sports Report and LCWR kind of continues to improve here at LCSC. And my volleyball days are back. We had the first home weekend,
right?
But I'll be back on the radio starting this weekend. Bryant and I are going to do a test tomorrow to make sure the connection still works and everything goes well there. So then hopefully on Friday and Saturday, if you want to experience what play-by-play for volleyball is for a radio setting, tune in on Friday and Saturday and have a good laugh.
There's days that when I'm on PA, I really wish I could hear you behind me, but that doesn't happen. But we do get to welcome in our favorite team mascot coming up. The Gooey Ducks are coming in.
The Gooey Ducks are coming in. We'll talk about that here shortly. Before we get started, obviously, sad news in the world of entertainment, I guess, all the way around. If you're a wrestling fan, it really hit you hard this last week. But we lost 3 fantastic entertainers since our last show. Terry Funk, who was at the age of 79, grew up watching him in WCW and then into WWE. Obviously, he's had fantastic matches with the likes of Ric Flair and Sting and Mick Foley and so on and so forth. And the fact that he was still wrestling just a couple of years ago, the man was absolutely crazy. Of course, Wyndham Rotunda, who played a character named Bray Wyatt, died at the age of just 36. Great choice on the background music. Do we have background music? What are you talking about background? Do we still have... I bet I saw the music playing. Thank you. I had the intro music still going. But yeah, thank you. Maybe I should have just left it on.
I see Simeon's hot right there.
Well, no, that's us. But he's talking he's talking about the music I played during the intro.
Yeah.
That loop was still going, apparently. It was nice and low key though. Not great for the conversation.
Have you ever known us to be low key?
No.
Well, at least me. I mean, I'm loud.
That's rough. But anyways, Wyndham Rotunda, who played Bray Wyatt, passed away on Thursday. Very shocking news. He had been out for most of the year with some health issues. Come to find out, he had COVID earlier on in this year, brought up an old heart issue, and it just ended up getting worse. He ended up having a heart attack on Thursday, unfortunately. So well wishes to him. Also, WWE, if you want to cry, go watch their tribute video to Bray Wyatt. They do such a good job at doing those highlight packages, and especially for somebody that passed. And then, of course, was it Saturday that it happened? Bob Barker,
I think so,
passed away at the age of 99. So a lot of very famous people in the industry. Bob Barker was a special guest GM on Monday Night Raw one week. So we lost 3 WWE personalities all in the same week.
And I even saw the thing when he retired. They played it the other day, and watching Happy Gilmore come in on The Price is Right on his last hurrah there. It was kind of cool to see. I forget which company put that out and video, but it was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff out there. And yeah, Eric, we will definitely look into it. The issue for us, especially now, is I can't hear it. Like when we were at home to do the lo-fi background music and stuff, I could hear it at least, and then I can adjust volume. I can't hear anything coming from the computer. So the way things are set up right now is I have a cord from my computer that hooks up to our headset situation over here. So it's basically just acting as a headset so that the computer can pick up actual microphones here instead of the old format where we had I just brought out a blue snowball over here and had pick up some stuff.
Well, and that will be a digital board thing too, so which will be nice and should be able
so
to.
we hopefully the digital soundboard will work better with the computer, and then we can work through StreamYard some more. But again, all of that stuff will be worked out when that time comes. Let's get into some main topics, and we are once again back in that local event mode. High school football started last weekend, and I promise in the following weeks we will have better information for you for these games. But Robert and I both, the start of the school year, we're finishing up moving over here. You've got some family stuff going on. We got scores. So that is enough. And I did get to listen to a bit of the Lewiston High School game with
our buddies.
Yep, with Danner and Bert down there as they were in southern Idaho. So I could tell you a little bit about that game. Other than that, I just got scores, and I feel bad about it. But
I feel bad about those guys having to turn around and go back down to Capital on
right afterwards.
Luckily, Saturday, actually.
The one football game I am scheduled for is here. The Lewis and Clarkston game I'll be able to join Danner with.
I'll make sure that I stand directly above you guys, and I'll make sure I stomp on the
I hope it rains on you. That's all I know. But Lewiston did fall to Woods Cross High School 35-10. Tough to figure out exactly what Lewiston is going to be, as Woods Cross has already played twice this year, so they've already kind of gotten into their rhythm. We will see with Lewiston. It'll be an interesting matchup with Capital. They're already 0-2 on the year. But again, when you go down and play a Utah team who's already started to get into mid-season form, kind of a bigger school down there, it's tough.
And that Rocky Mountain Rumble has turned into a big tournament with, California teams, Utah teams. But, listening to Danner and Solberg talk about that the other day was the main idea of they think it looks like it's going to be the same Davy Steele kind of run offense setup. Everything's going to be out of that base look of power run, whichever direction we're going to go.
So. Well, yeah, Pancari definitely loves to run the football and play defense, and we'll see how that all works for the Bengals this season. Obviously, it'll be a few weeks before they get into any kind of league play where the games absolutely matter. Obviously, every game will count, especially in high school, but other key matchups, Notice had a shootout with Clearwater Valley, who is part of the White Pine League. You're used to this in White Pine League football. We joked about it last year when I was part of the Tribune's late night video thing that we were doing. Now they've turned it into a podcast, but Notice wins that one 72-54.
Sounds like a college basketball score.
Kendrick continues to be ridiculous. They won 66-14. That team's going to be just as good as they've always been. How about Moscow getting their first win in 2 years? The Tribune had it down to the day, and I forgot to put it in there. But congratulations to the Bears. They took out Kellogg 34-0, and they get Clarkston next week.
Listen,
so watch out, Bantams. They're on a winning streak.
Kellogg has been a tough team. I mean, I went up and watched them play Soden. I've seen them play Grangeville, so it'll be interesting, especially losing their twin brothers that were on that team, and now they're in college. So
they went to Florida, right? A school in Florida. I forget where, but
and so those guys are down there playing. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, Moscow, Clarkson on Friday. I'll have the call on that one.
We will have our predictions in the second hour. We'll bring back our football predictions coming up in the second hour. Big upset, I think. A 4A school beating a 5A school. Lakeland takes out Lake City 13-12. Lakeland is now 2-0 on the year, and it's all defense. I think the first game was like 17-14 or somewhere in that range. As the piano gets playing, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's a piano just outside the studio. It's a weird place for it, but this Lakeland team could be really, really good. Obviously, again, at the beginning of the year, the fun covering high school football is every roster is going to be different from year to year with people graduating. But Lake City has had a solid team
Mm-hmm.
before and end up losing here. Lapway comes away with a win 58-14. Talking about another team that has had a lot of turnover. That's that Lapway squad. Post Falls took out Sandpoint 41-21. Deary over Troy 34-28. Pretty good game there. And another White Pine League contest. And Logos continues. They're a private school in Moscow. Continues to really kind of find their footing. They took out Lakeside 56-0.
Yeah, and they're going to look good this year. The other one, I kind of feel bad for because I do try to follow them just a little bit is Orfino. And just Orfino trying to find talent to play. They come away with a big loss. They're 66-6.
I don't know if you guys can hear the piano, but it's making me laugh. So yeah, first full week in Idaho. Washington gets going with them next week, and even more and more football. Again, we'll try to have actual stats and actual players that point up, but neither of us just. I was throwing stats still on here for other stuff 5 minutes before we got going. So apologies to all of the young players there. We'll get you some more shout outs next week. LC volleyball was down in Arizona. They played 4 matches in 3 days, and on the record book, it does not turn out great for them, but it's a great building experience for them before they come back here this weekend for all of the conference action. But they do go 1-3 in Arizona, 2-4 now overall. But their one win was insane. I was keeping up with it on the stat tracker. But they win that one 25-23, 22-25, 23-25, 26-24, and then in that fifth set, 16-14. So every set was contested. Every set went down to the wire, and it went to a fifth set. Then they went on to lose to Montana Western, Arizona Christian, and MSU Northern. That MSU Northern game went 5 sets as well. A couple of shout outs from early on in the year. How about Juliana Forgash Aguilar? We talked about her last week. Already up to 98 kills to start the season.
Just watching her arm motion. If you haven't seen her and you're local, you've got to be here this weekend. Just watching her arm angle and the speed she comes through from the side, just through it is nuts how she finishes the ball. It's unbelievable. So looking forward to watching her again this week and the youth this team has.
It's so good. And not as much youth, younger than us by far, but 5th-year senior Kenzie Dean already with 88 digs on the year. And she has been kind of in and out of the lineup, just trying to save her for later on in the season. Still already 88 digs. Puts her at 1369 in her LCSC career. That does pass Heather McIntosh for 7th all time.
I didn't even get to text Heather and tell her that her record is she's now 8.
Yeah, she's dropped down into the 8th spot. So Kenzie is now in 7th. She is 30 away from Liana Croft for 6th all time and 33 away from Kim Condor, who is in 5th. There is a chance this weekend that she will be able to get into the top 5 all time when the Warriors take on Northwest on Friday at 6 p.m. and then Evergreen State College, again, the Gooey Ducks. That one is on Saturday at 5 p.m. Both of those are over there at the P1FCU Activity Center. I will have the call right here on lcwarriorradio.com as well as lcwarriors.com if you want to pay and watch the video feed. Are you PA for both?
No, I got PA on Saturday.
There you go.
I will be up in Moscow. We'll talk.
Football.
We'll talk a little bit of that later.
And then I got to make sure I get this right because I'm always so bad with some last names. And I asked Alicia to double check with me. But Bonolo Molefe is a tennis player for LC's team, and she is such a sweetheart. Was able to talk with her a bit yesterday. I'll have a deeper story on what she was able to do this last weekend. But Bonolo was given the ITA NAIA Arthur Ashe Leadership and Sportsmanship Award last weekend. Only one woman and one man in all of NAIA get this award. And Bonolo was given it on the women's side. So congratulations to her. She spent the weekend in New York for the 2023 ITA Leadership Awards weekend. Again, I'll have the full story for you on lcwarriors.com in the near future, I've already gotten quotes from her. I got to get some from Kai and then put everything together. But they were supposed to have a kids thing on that Saturday, but it got rained out. There were supposed to be like 30,000 kids in attendance for that she was going to be able to take part of. She was really disappointed that did not go through. But she did say that she got to come in and watch some of the professionals practice as they got ready for the U.S. Open. So she saw everyone from Novak and on down, and just she was saying how awestruck she was from seeing some of those players. Obviously, had the banquet award, and she was very happy that they just handed her the award and got a picture instead of a speech needing to be said. But it was the first time really having a good conversation with her yesterday. She's an absolute sweetheart, and she definitely deserves that award.
Well, just even hearing her name when LCSC put together with Arthur Ashe right away, that alone has got so much merit. So congratulations to her, and looking forward to. I've got to make some time, and I think you and I have talked about this. We've got to make some time where we go in and watch this tennis team play, what they do, and what Kai does with these folks. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been to a few of them now that I'm writing more for Alicia. Now, as this year goes on, definitely will be there even more. There you go. Those are your local news items for the week. Again, we'll hit more on the high school stuff later on in the second hour to get you ready for this upcoming weekend's events. But it is now time for the AFC West preview, and I'm worried that our buddy Robert Taylor is not in attendance at the moment because he was not freaking out waiting for us to talk about his team.
I have not heard from him. I texted him the other day about something else, and I'm starting to wonder. He hasn't shown his head yet.
Not yet. We have brought up the Kansas City Chiefs, so we will see what happens. Now, last year the Chiefs were 14-3, and they went on to do something a little special and won the Super Bowl. Chargers were 10-7. They did make the playoffs last year, had a huge lead against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That lead did not last. Trevor Lawrence with 5 interceptions early on, and that still was not enough for the Chargers to win that game. Raiders 6-11, Denver 5-12. Before we get into team-by-team breakdowns, who is your player to watch?
For me, and we'll talk a little bit more about why with this one, but I'm going to take Rashawn Slater. And he was drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers, but he needs to protect Herbert, and it boils down to that: is how much he can learn from this offense and be able to protect him, and then that's what this one boils down to: is the health of this Chargers team.
For me, how about young tight end Greg? Is it Dulcich? I believe is how you say his name, for the Denver Broncos. He wasn't great in his first year, but has definitely turned out. What are you looking at? What do you need?
I sound like a ping, like an echo every once in a while.
I have noticed the way things are set up. If I don't talk for a second, like there starts to become more of a weird sound. I don't know if it's coming through for them, but that's definitely coming through our headphones. So
I'm just weird like that.
Yeah. But nothing I can do about it right now. Stop freaking me out by looking at this and making sure everything's working. It's working over here. That's all that matters. And Dwayne says we coming out clear.
All right. So that's all that matters.
So yeah, young tight end for Denver. Listen, all the wide receivers keep dropping. Jerry Jeudy went down with a hamstring strain. He's going to be out for weeks. We will see where that goes. We are just weird. It is 100% true. It's very, very true.
No need for name calling.
So you need obviously there's been a lot of good offenses where a tight end is very important, and we'll see if he can step things up. Speaking of those Denver Broncos, let's look at them first. Their main additions were offensive line, getting Frank Clark from the Kansas City Chiefs, Ben Powers, a guard, as well as Mike McGlinchey. Also an offensive tackle. They lose a couple running backs in Latavius Murray and Chase Edmonds. They lose 5 offensive linemen throughout the offseason, but they also lose a couple good defenders in Deshaun Williams, Jacob Martin, and Ronald Darby. Not a ton coming out of the draft as well. What do you? But I guess the biggest
That,
addition
there's one bigger addition.
is
you
Sean
didn't put- Yeah,
Payton,
100%.
the new head coach for the team, replacing Nathaniel Hackett,
Mhm.
who is now the offensive coordinator for your Super Bowl winning New York Jets. Maybe. No, I don't know.
Listen, Dalvin Cook's already said there's a chance they make it.
There's
to
a
the
chance.
Super Bowl.
There's a chance
So,
for all 32 teams. Hey,
Well,
that's why we are finishing up. These are our last divisional
Mhm.
previews. We've given you a reason why. Carry the two. 24 different teams so far have been able
Mhm.
or would be able to win a division.
Right.
So why not the Super Bowl? Anyways, Denver, Sean Payton is the biggest addition by far.
Yeah, 100%. And seeing what these guys will do for him, and that's what it's going to boil down to is them playing
Mhm.
as a unit under his offense, because
Right.
we've talked about his play calling, and it's such a very large play call list and how that looks, and from line adjustments to coverages to the main play, and then even the backup play. It takes them a while, and so this is going to be a big learning curve, I think, for Russell Wilson, especially after the way he played this last week or last year.
We've also talked already on this show a couple of weeks ago about the comments Sean Payton had, where he just threw everyone that was already gone under the bus, and nothing was the fault of the people that are still there. Part of it is just defending the people that are there. Part of it is just, trying to motivate others and apparently piss off everyone else. We will see how that goes for Denver. I'm optimistic, I think, for this team. I don't think that they are all of a sudden going to be contenders with Kansas City. But I think, they can contend to try to get back to 500. They were 5-12 last year, which was really disappointing for what we were expecting from that team. Obviously, there were injuries already kind of worry you going forward, but I don't think Russell Wilson is completely washed.
No.
I think the running game will be okay, and then we'll see what Sean Payton can sprinkle around. So I can see them being around the 9-8 record, which could possibly be wild card territory, because again, the AFC is so tough, but because they're so tough, wins and losses are going to go all over the place. I think 9-8 could possibly be a 7 seed.
They can be better. That's what I think where it's at. So whether they are 3 games better at 8 and 9, 4 game better, that's what it's all going to boil down to. But I can see the growth in just having a coach like Sean Payton there is going to make the adjustments. And does he make Wilson better? But now over the last week or so with injuries, hence preseason again. We hate that word preseason. And even watching the stuff going down, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but why are we still doing it? That's my question. Why are we still doing preseason?
To sell tickets. It's just straight to sell tickets. Anyways, the Denver Broncos will win the AFC West if, for me, Russell Wilson has that big resurgence and the wide receivers stop just dropping off to injuries. But the big thing is, I think Russell Wilson has to play out of his mind, maybe have his best season ever for the Broncos to finally usurp the Chiefs.
Yeah. For me, it's got to be, you have to play Sean Payton football. You have to be ready to go. You've got to be able to pay attention to what's going on with, as far as his schemes and what he sends out all the time. That's what it is. It's Sean Payton football. You have to play it.
All right, let's get to those Kansas City Chiefs. They had a couple of offensive linemen in Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith. And the biggest addition of them all, quarterback Blaine Gabbert. There could be a quarterback controversy, mate. No, there's not. There's absolutely not. They lose a couple wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman. The Chiefs don't care. They lost Tyreek Hill last year and did not slow down, maybe sped up at that point. They lose Orlando Brown, as well as Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap from the defensive line. Rashee White could be an interesting rookie for them. I know I can't think of his name right now. Maybe I'll pull it back up. I was hoping Taylor would be here, but he is super high on another young wide receiver as well. But it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Travis Kelce. Do you need anything else from the Chiefs to think that they're going to win this division, if not more?
I think it's got to be, you've got to throw the name Chris Jones in there. They've got to do something with him and get him in there. So was it Richie James or was it Justin Ross?
Ross.
Ross.
Thank you.
Yes. I couldn't remember which one he's talking
He
to us
loves
about.
Ross.
Yeah. But I think that's the big thing is, you've got to shore up that defense, even with all the injuries coming from the wide receivers. But, Patrick Mahomes is going to do Patrick Mahomes things. And that's the thing. And he's one of those talent that we've said it, generational talent. And you can see that with him right now.
They have a backup Jaguar as a backup. Hopefully it's only a backup and they never actually have to use him. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is so fun to watch. Travis Kelce, even though you got to think the defensive schemes say triple team that man every play, somehow gets wide open every time. He is just too good. Yes, getting Jones back before week 8 is what he is trying to say that he may miss out to. It is a big deal, and it could be a distraction, but I just think the Chiefs are just so good that I am not going to bet against them until they prove a reason why.
And that's the other thing. And we talk a little bit about fantasy. We try to stay away from our fantasy teams and all that, but that's the big talk right now. Do you take a Travis Kelce, who in a lot of leagues, a lot of places is like 5 to 10 top pick with Travis Kelce? Do you take him that early in a fantasy league?
Or do you let it open?
Yeah,
especially if it's PPR, he's gonna get his numbers.
So,
anyways, Kansas City's gonna win the division if Patrick Mahomes stays healthy.
Yeah,
period.
For me, Patrick does Patrick things, and again, Chris Jones, they got to get him signed and they got to get it done.
I don't even know if they do at this point. It's just insane. Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, they lost Derek Carr in the offseason. I forgot to put that in the notes, but they did. But they get Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to finally be good, right? Maybe. Also, Jacoby Myers, a wide receiver, tight end Austin Hooper. Greg Van Roten on the offensive line. A couple of defenders as well. Of course, they also lose Darren Waller. That could be a big hit.
They lose
as
Rock.
well.
Rock goes to Baltimore.
You hope he's good. You're only bringing that up because you're hoping he's good.
I hope he is good because we need a little help in that defensive backfield.
I am really down on this team. I cannot buy in to Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, I mean, yes, they got Josh Jacobs signed finally, so he is a bit happier, but I just cannot buy into Garoppolo, and he's going to get hurt.
Did you see what Haley's taking?
She's not going to take Justin Tucker.
Legatron?
What?
We've had this argument. I know.
Justin Tucker is not Legatron. That was a different nickname for a different
They
kicker.
had it for him too.
No, you can't.
I tell you, they have
other nicknames.
That's why I said that we've had this argument before.
Who is given Justin Tucker the Legatron nickname?
I like your thought, though. I mean, most points, guaranteed points.
By the way, Legatron is on my team, not your team. I've never heard anyone say Justin Tucker is Legatron.
He will go down as the greatest.
Ravens kicker Tucker rejects Legatron nickname.
Zerline is Legatron.
Tucker is Opera Man. He even rejected it. Greg Zerline is Legatron. You've completely taken us off task, but I don't care because it's the Raiders, and I just don't believe in them. The Raiders will win the division if Jimmy Garoppolo finally turns into the next Tom Brady, like he was drafted to be 38 years ago.
You hope so.
Yeah, Greg the Leg is also. I love that nickname better than Legatron, anyways.
For me, for the Raiders to do anything, it's going to boil down to Josh Jacobs finally decided he's going to sign a 1-year deal and get things done. He's got to play for his points in this 1-year deal because it's 1 year, and I think he's going bye-bye. Maybe and somebody's going to benefit from him being that guy here in this team.
Again, the NFL just does not care about these running backs. I don't care what he does in this 1-year deal. He's not going to get the money he thinks he deserves, which I would agree with him. Los Angeles Chargers, the one addition I find was Eric Kendricks, a linebacker. There wasn't much else out there. They didn't lose much either, but it's really is Justin Herbert going to take that next step?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
will their coach stop trying to lose them games? Those are my two questions.
Well, and it's like exactly why I picked the guy I did with Rashawn Slater. I mean, he's got to protect Justin Herbert. That's the bottom line. That offensive line's got to stay stout and let things happen, especially with Austin Eckler.
Right.
I think that's going to be huge for this team.
All right, the Los Angeles Chargers will win the division. To me, if Justin Herbert has an MVP season, I think the Chargers have a decent chance to make the playoffs. We will give you our all 7 playoff spots in each conference, as well as our championship game and Super Bowl predictions next week. But again, for them to top Kansas City, who beat them by 4 games last year, Herbert has to play above and beyond what he was able to do last year.
For me, they just have to stay healthy. That is the biggest bottom line. Is everybody's got to stay out of that IR list and stay healthy and play good, because we know what's capable out of Justin Herbert. We know what's capable out of Eckler. And so I'm excited to see where this team can go.
All right. My AFC West predictions, I think it's pretty obvious from what we were just having conversations about, but Kansas City to me is going to win this division. Chargers will finish second, Broncos third, and Raiders will finish in dead last.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you for both of them. I think where I'm going to look in this division is how close can 3 and 4 make it to almost a 500 level team. I think that's where this is, to see whether or not some of the youth that these guys have drafted is improving this team enough that, do I think they're going to surpass Patrick Mahomes and all that in the next couple of years? No, but there's a good chance that they get better.
By the way, we're back on the, well, kind of the radio, but in a radio format. So I got to do radio things again.
There you go.
So you are listening to the R&R Sports Report over on LCWarriorRadio.com. We appreciate everyone listening to LCWR. It is currently 6:34 p.m. here in the Pacific time zone. It is 68 degrees according to the computer to my left, and the ridiculous rain that we had about 30 minutes before the show started has looked like it has stopped out there. If you are listening on LCWarriorRadio.com, we appreciate you. But if you want to interact with the show, go to our Facebook or YouTube pages. Just look up R&R Sports Report, and you can comment along with Eric and Haley and Dwayne, who have been hanging out with us throughout the show. All right, let's move on to some Major League Baseball news. And all of the news happened the day after our show.
It always happens.
It's
always
just insane. But Shohei Ohtani has a tear in his ulnar collateral ligament, his UCL, which usually means Tommy John surgery. He is not committed to doing that yet. He is still hitting. He is hitting against me in fantasy baseball as we speak, and has not been great for me. But to me, so the timing is just horrible. I mean, he's going to be a free agent here in the offseason. He's going to make buku bucks. But how much is this going to affect that contract? How much less? What's that front number now going to be for Ohtani in the offseason?
Well, I think it boils down to how quick he decides what he's going to do for surgery. He's decided he wants to keep playing. Now, I hate saying this. I mean, we already know this, that the Angels are so far out of it that they should be shutting him down. But
they're not going to shut him down because they wanted to get ticket sales. They are shutting other people down. They put a bunch of people on waivers today.
Right. And I think that what they should have done is, I think he should have shut himself down and said, I'm done. I need to have this surgery or whatever he decides to do. But, he still went 3 for 5 today with 2 RBIs.
Yeah, so I know.
It's just,
I know he did.
Crazy.
Guess how many RBIs my team has total this week? 0. 0.
Yeah,
I'm getting crushed right now. It's sad. But yeah, Eric said he thought it was going to start with a 6. I thought 7. as far as his contract goes. It could be down to a 4. Like you said, it just depends on how, like, is it a partial tear in his arm? We have seen pitchers pitch with a partially torn UCL. Masahiro Tanaka for the Yankees did it a couple of years ago, made it through the entire next season. Obviously, with Ohtani, you have to be careful with him anyways. He's never pitched with fewer than 5 days rest. So you always have to have that 6-man rotation, which kind of changes things. So it'd be interesting to see what teams do there. It could be interesting. I've heard some people throw out the idea of him becoming a closer. So now you're hitting every day, and then when the game's close, you can throw him in a key situation. What does that do? More to your arm, where you're not throwing 90-some pitches every week, but you're being more active throughout. Can you then play in the field a bit more? What would that do to things? So there's different things, and it really comes down to what team ends up signing him in the offseason. But I've heard people like Jeff Passan say that it's not going to affect his contract number. I can't help but think it will, and I feel bad for him. I don't really put any blame on anybody. I mean, the Angels are not going to sit him down now. I mean, just because you're not resting him for next year if you don't know for sure he is on your team next year. Like Mike Trout went back to the IL because he came back from his hamate fracture, played a game and a half, I think. And then they put him back because he was feeling discomfort. Now I can totally understand if they shut him down because he is contractually obligated to play for the Angels next year. Make sure he gets 100% for next year when it matters. Ohtani's completely different because he's not on your team next year. Now, they're not going out there and overusing him. I don't think they were ever pushing him past his limit. There were many times where he left early because of fatigue or cramps or whatever. So they were never over pushing him more than what he was saying he was willing to go. But
you would think that he would be, just from my opinion, seeing this, he would be a lot smarter to sit himself down and looking forward to the contract coming forward. Yeah.
But I don't know if they're going to. I don't think the Angels will do it. And Ohtani has already shown that he is too much of a competitor as he has this injury and he's still hitting. So another name that popped up on the news feed that you have to remember, he still was not retired, but he is now. Steven Strasburg retires from the Washington Nationals. This was back on Thursday where they announced it. He signed a big deal after being the World Series MVP in 2019. And I want to say he started 10 to 15 games in the last 3 years since then. His career was just filled with injuries throughout. I still remember watching his debut. He was one of those prospects that just, like Mike Trout or Bryce Harper, that just, oh God, when he gets called up, it's going to be so great. And then he got called up, and I want to say it was either against the Cubs or the Pirates. I'm forgetting who now, but he struck out 10 in his first start ever and just looked phenomenal. And it just looked like he was going to be this Hall of Fame pitcher, and then injuries just made that just not the case. I don't see him as a Hall of Famer myself because of the injuries. What do you think?
I don't think so either. He's only done, Eric, 31 plus innings in the 2019 postseason. Yeah, 100%. I don't think he makes his. I would even hate to even put him in a all-decade team. I just think he's not had too much time on the IL, too much time being hurt, so it really affects him. And he was that next great thing that where he was going to be.
Sorry, I'm banging my microphone over here. Some quick news for you. Jake Cronenworth breaks his wrist on Friday, and Padres cannot catch a break. I keep not wanting to quit on this team and their chances, and just nothing is going right.
And listening
to
them. Bob Melvin talk about the team too. He says we'll make adjustments. We just do, and then
that's what you do.
Yep.
Detroit's Miggy Cabrera hit his 510th home run, passing Gary Sheffield for 26th place all time. He's also 13th place all time in runs batted in. That is a first ballot Hall of Famer, that's for sure.
100%. Did you see the interaction between him and Verlander the other day?
No tipping awesome. Of the cap.
That was awesome.
Noah Syndergaard was designated for assignment by Cleveland. He just has never been able to get his career back on track after He had Tommy John surgery, I believe, with the Mets, and then just ever since, he's just never been the same. Angels, I said get rid of, but they just put on waivers so other teams can claim them, but they're still on the team for this 48-hour period. But starting pitcher Lucas Giolito, you got to think he's going to get picked up.
Oh, yeah.
Relievers Matt Moore and Reynaldo Lopez. Tampa Bay, if you're listening, I have Lopez on my fantasy team. Please pick him up and turn him into the greatest closer of all time. Thank you very much. And then outfielders Hunter Renfroe and Randall Grichuk. Yankees.
I was going to say, how has Alicia taken any of this? Have you talked to Alicia?
No,
since all
because
of
their
this stuff
season,
went down?
again, the Angels season, they picked up Giolito hoping to.
Well, I'm talking to all of this.
What are you going to do? They're all going to be free agents. So I don't think she would blame the Angels, just like I don't blame the Yankees for cutting ties with Josh Donaldson. They put Harrison Bader on waivers just before the game. Obviously, he was still playing today because, again, you're still on the team for 48 hours. It's just the other 29 teams got to go in order from worst record on to try to say, yes, that we want that player. Did you see the interaction with Ronald Acuna Jr. and the fans yesterday?
I don't think I saw that one.
A couple of fans just decided they wanted to go give Ronald Acuna Jr. a hug during the game. I'm glad no one got hurt, but it is scary.
Yeah.
Like, just to think of what could have been, just because the security was so bad. A fan comes all the way out of the stands onto the field and gives Acuna a big hug before any security can get there. And then they were trying to pull him off, and he just had a good grip. Another fan comes out of the crowd, gets kind of tackled as he gets there, and it makes Acuna fall over one of the security guards. Just, again, nobody got hurt, but we got to up the security. I'll definitely check it out after the show. Julio Rodriguez continues to be absolutely fantastic. Fastest Mariner to hit 50 home runs. His resurgence has been a big deal for the Mariners and their resurgence here late in the year. We'll talk about those standings here shortly. I do remember the father-son coming out, and the first base coach. Just, that's what it kind of looked. I was like, are they attacking him? What is going on? And when you watch the video further and further, they get more and more, whether it's upset or just irate. It was a weird video for sure.
Yeah, and that you say Ronald Acuna, you say Julio, crazy stats. Both of them going to be first two in their first two seasons to go 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. It's just crazy what these talented people can be.
Two good players. Let's look at your Major League Baseball scoreboard. My New York Yankees, now that they're completely out of it, are starting to win baseball games again. They won 4-2 today against the Detroit Tigers. Philadelphia beat the Angels 12-7. Texas held on to beat the Mets 2-1. The Rangers, man, we'll talk about that when we get to the standings, but they have two good relievers in Will Smith and Aroldis Chapman, and they are battling each other to see who could blow a game worse.
Yep.
It's been insane. It was a 2-0 game going into the 8th. Smith had a clean 8th inning, and then Chapman gave up a run in the 9th. Going on right now, Tampa Bay is about to finish off the Miami Marlins. They lead 11-2, bottom of the 9th inning. Baltimore over the White Sox 4-1, bottom of the 8th. Nationals over the Blue Jays 5-3 in the 9th. Washington has been really good lately. Like, seeing obviously they're not going to make the playoffs by any means, but seeing them move up the bottom part of the wild card standings over the last couple of weeks, there's some good young talent on that Washington team.
They're playing Toronto right now.
Yeah,
so
it's a good team.
And that's a really good team.
Big series going on right now. Houston with a 6-2 lead over Boston, going to the bottom of the 8th inning. Cleveland over Minnesota 3-1, going to the 7th. The San Diego Padres, who I just can't quit, leading 4-3 over the Cardinals, going to the bottom of the 7th. That was supposed to be an NLS or NLCS championship game between us. That's not happening. Cubs with a 1-0 lead over Milwaukee, going to the bottom of the 6th. How about Steele? Is it Justin Steele, right? Am I going to get... Yeah, Justin Steele, the young pitcher for the Cubs. 6 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, and 111 pitches so far for the Cubs. Also, Cole Reagan's going for Kansas City as a 1-0 lead over Pittsburgh. He has been ridiculous as well. Trying to get through the 7th inning right now. He's 6 2/3, giving up just 2 hits, 1 walk, and he struck out 8 on now 101 pitches. Atlanta with a 2-1 lead over Colorado in the 4th. Oakland with a 1-0 lead over those Seattle Mariners. I'm sure you're not worried at the moment.
No.
That one just in the first inning. Cincinnati and San Francisco has just got it started, and in about 30 minutes or so, it'll be Arizona and the Dodgers. Will keep you up to date as those games go on. But let's get into those standings, and I'll try to pull them up for those watching on Facebook and YouTube, but things are running really, really slow. There's a new team leading a division that you might watch a couple of times. How do you feel about your Seattle Mariners?
You kind of doubted me a little bit. You
I
said
did.
that a couple weeks ago, and I'm not.
I did.
I'm not bringing it up to poke the bear.
No, you
but
can. You can at this point, because what they have been doing is phenomenal, and I will give credit where credit is due. On that one.
They just have been playing lights out, and you said it, between Julio showing up and playing out every day, to other guys, Mike Ford, unbelievable.
Don't bring up Mike Ford. No.
Hernandez,
I'm going to say good things about your team. I will never say one good thing about Mike Ford ever. He has produced some. Stop
in the
it.
past
Stop moving on. Just move on, or it's gonna get ugly. I was being nice to your team.
And the pitching. I mean, the biggest thing. Castillo's been good, and Kirby's not pitching tonight because of some illness. He wasn't feeling well, but those two guys, and what this rotation
been really good,
and the bullpen is doing.
Who would have thought you traded away your closer and everything worked out great? Yeah. And it was really funny because you poo-pooed on Texas a couple of weeks ago, and they went on like an 8-game winning streak. So you went, all right, I will unpoo-poo the Texas Rangers. And then they went on like an 8-game losing streak. So
maybe I should have done that earlier.
Are you going to continue to unpoo-poo this team so they continue to lose? Or are you poo-pooing them again and you're going to get them going?
We'll see here
on a run, because obviously it's only because of you the way they go. Looking at the standings, again, Baltimore with a 2.5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. Both are going already in the 80 win total. Just 2 fantastic years. You go 13 games down to Minnesota, who has a 7-game lead over the Guardians, and it's only because they're the only team over 500 in that division, but they got that thing on lock. But that AL West is going to be so much fun. 3 teams within 1 game of each other. I haven't looked at what you guys have left in September. Hopefully a lot of series against each other. It would be a lot of fun. But really, the main thing that I have noticed from the American League playoff race is just the fact that I feel like we're down to 4 teams as far as wild card goes. We can say 5 because, yes, Seattle has a division lead right now, but any of those 3 teams will win that division, and then it's really down to Tampa Bay, Toronto, and then the other 2 teams in the West that don't win that division. Do you think Boston at 5.5 back can make a run?
There's a good shot. You look at it. So I had to pull it up because I was nosy. I had to pull it up. So we've got 2 more games, or 1 more game with Oakland.
By we, you mean
I know
the Seattle Mariners.
But here's the bad part: is the Mariners go on the road for 10 games. They've got 3 at Shea. Then they've got
that's the Mets for those that don't know. Yeah,
3 at Cincinnati, and then 4 against the Rays. So it'll be an interesting, 10 games. But
I was about to make a joke about the Mariners. Are you used to playing in a horrible dome?
Yeah,
because they played in the King Dome. But how make you feel old here? How many players are currently on the Mariners that were not alive when the King Dome was built? Was standing?
Oh God, because it went down in 99. So
how many current Mariners?
I would say maybe 2.
We're not even born when that thing went down.
Maybe 2.
It's insane.
Yeah. So
the fact that any is sad.
So to answer your question, after they get back from Tampa Bay, they've got They've got the Angels once, the Dodgers, Oakland again, Texas, Houston, Texas. So
That's how they end.
That's
Is
how they
Texas,
end.
Houston, Texas. I
Yep.
love it. That's
So-
what I was hoping to hear. All right, let's move on to the National League. And again, look at Washington. They're out of last place. By the way, 2 New York teams, both last place in their divisions. You were higher on the Mets than I was, but we were both high on them, and
Right.
that was really insane what happened there. Atlanta has that thing on lock. Dodgers have theirs on lock. Does Milwaukee have theirs on lock? They've won, 8 or 9 in a row right now. They are playing fantastic baseball. Just a 5-game lead over the Cubs that have been hanging out. Do the Cubs have a shot?
The Cubs didn't really make any moves at the trade deadline. They, 7-3 over the last 10. Cody Bellinger's still been playing quite well. So
Right.
I think there's a chance. I mean, 5 games, we still got over 30 days. So there's a slim chance. I think Milwaukee still has a greater chance of taking this division.
Yeah, just the way they've been playing. They kind of get ignored because they were already at the top of their division, and Seattle flew up theirs. They were, the Mariners were 4th a couple of weeks ago. So Milwaukee gets ignored with their good winning streak right now, but they're playing extremely well.
They've got the Phillies, the Pirates, and then the Yankees coming up. So and then Miami. So I mean, really, you look at that, they could easily.
And they can continue for sure. You look at the wild card situation. Philadelphia has a little bit of a gap as they continue to play good baseball as well. To me, put the Phillies in, then it's the Cubs, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Reds fighting for 2 spots. I'm starting to lose faith in Miami, even though they're only 2.5 back. And San Diego, who I can't quit, is still 7 games back, but
Bob Melvin said, "Don't quit on us."
The Mariners have shown you just go on one good winning streak and you're right back in it. So, if we both agree Philadelphia is in, who are going to be those other 2 teams?
I think I'm gonna pull this up a little bit bigger. So, I think it's Cincinnati.
I just don't know.
I mean, they have to play well. San Francisco is still in that half out. So anything could still happen with that one.
I got my first RBI of the week on my fantasy team, and it was the Padres. Woo.
How many weeks you got left on your fantasy?
We got 2 weeks left in regular season. So I'm playing the top place team. I'm in 3rd, trying to get into the bye. It's an important week. Super important. Nobody cares, but it's a super important week. I'm going to go Cubs, and I'm going to go Padres. I am not giving up on my team. Even though they're not my team.
So much
they're not
talent.
my team, but I am a
they've got so much
supporter.
Talent. That's the tough thing watching this team. There's so much talent there. I think they just need to.
For sure. Yeah. There's a ridiculous amount of talent. All right, let's get into your weekly awards for Major League Baseball and start with the batting side. I will go with Bryce Harper because I think you have the actual batter of the week, but Bryce Harper was pretty good. Designated hitter for the Philadelphia Phillies. Played in 5 games, went 10 of 18, so 556. Had 2 home runs. One of them was inside the park.
That was a crazy play.
It was pretty good play. A double, a triple, 5 runs, and 8 RBI on the week. Who do you got?
I wanted to go with 2 guys.
Okay.
The teammates. I really wanted to. I wanted to go Freeman Betts, but Mookie Betts has an unbelievable week for the Dodgers. 6 games. A home run, 4 doubles, 9 runs, 7 RBIs, just 3 walks, and just 2 strikeouts.
That's not bad.
Yeah. But what him and Freddie Freeman did 1-2 for this team.
Dodgers are figuring it out. That's for sure. Who's your standout pitcher?
Homer. I'm just saying right now. Homer.
I'm still mad he's not a Yankee.
Luis Castillo. Man, 2 starts, 2-0, 14 innings pitch, struck out 16 while giving up just 1 run.
How about Justin Verlander? He went 2-0, but he only went 11 innings pitched in his 2 starts, but 16 strikeouts. My favorite stat, he gave up 7 hits. He walked 3.
All right.
He hit 4 batters, but he did not allow a single run. All of those base runners did not allow a single run, but I love the fact that he hit 4 dudes in 11 innings over 2 starts, went 2-0 for the Astros. So gave a couple people a couple bruises and came away with no runs given up. All right, let's hit our power rankings. Go ahead and start us off.
No brainer.
Okay.
Atlanta Braves is the best team, and I'm saying it again.
Me too.
Atlanta Braves. For me, I'm gonna go number 2. I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I think I wanted to, this has been the tough one. Is flip flop back and forth between 2 and 3. All the last 6 weeks.
Right.
It's between 2 teams, and it's Baltimore or
the Dodgers. For me, I had them at 2 last week. Baltimore has not done enough for me to pass LA. And honestly, it's getting close to where I might think about putting the Dodgers first, just the way they have been playing. I'm not quite there yet. Atlanta still is phenomenal. Yeah, but we did flip flop.
Yeah, we did flip flop.
Yeah, you were Dodgers 3, I was Baltimore 3. So we have the same top 3 teams, just slightly orders for 2 and 3. But what about 4th?
I am going to put Tampa Bay in there. What they're doing. And
me too.
And so, 8 and 2 over the last 10. Last 10, they've just produced, and they keep producing. And
right.
I think, honestly, they have the highest run differential still at almost 180 or
definitely
something
went
like that.
on a hot start to the season. Have they've been hanging in there. Obviously, Baltimore got rolling on them, and I'm glad that you finally have decided to join the correct.
Wait a minute! Don't do that, because
I was on Seattle way before you.
What, 1 week? Because I just didn't want to play Homer. I did not want to play Homer last week and put them on, but they have just played
about time. It's
lights out. I'm putting them in number
so
time.
Disappointed in you as a Mariner fan that
listen,
I put him in my power rankings.
Eric will probably get upset, but I almost went Seattle above Tampa Bay. Almost. So
I wish you would have. It would give me a better chance of winning the sports-related draft that we are about to get to. Again, you are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on LCWR, which you can listen to live on lcwarriorradio.com. You can watch us live on our YouTube and Facebook pages, R&R Sports Report. That's all you got to look up, and then you can interact with us as, what did Eric say? Why is that even an almost?
So looking at that, just a second update. Guess who hit the home run against the Mariners?
I forget. Who are you playing?
The A's.
Oh, is it Seth Brown?
It was Seth Brown. LC boy.
Yeah, former LC Warrior. Seth Brown with the big home run. It is now about 7 o'clock, 6:59 to be exact, 66 degrees outside. And it is now time for the sports-related draft. We have done a lot of these. I've been trying to keep our stuff updated. This is our 65th sports-related draft. Obviously, the first few, we did not have judges, but then you got upset that I just won them all.
You said you won them.
So you wanted judges. So we've had judges, and then after a while, we just made it the chat. We didn't want to find specific people. We did really good for a while of finding a new person every time, but now we just leave it up to the chat. So again, if you are listening on the radio side and you want to get a vote in, he wouldn't know sports. That's okay. But you want to get a vote in, go on our Facebook or YouTube pages right now. I won last week on my topic. So again, it was my topic. So you get to choose what we rank this week.
So, neither one of us watched too much preseason. And
nope.
And
can I tell you my preseason story real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So again, I hate the preseason. I just don't want injuries. I went on a rant last year about it. Zach Wilson went out. So I was really worried that Aaron Rodgers was going to play. So I did end up watching the first bit of the Jets-Giants game and was very happily surprised that Aaron Rodgers never took more than 2 steps back. There was a defender for the Giants. I apologize to him for forgetting his name, who came out of nowhere on one play. That dude is really, really good. And nearly took out Rodgers, and I got all scared. But other than that one play, anybody that has asked me since, how did Aaron Rodgers do in his preseason game? I go, he's still standing. I didn't care about the rest. He had a fantastic touchdown pass that I dare anybody tell me what other Jet in the last 40 years could have made that throw. It's preseason. It doesn't matter. But as a Jets fan, I got excited. But the big thing,
he's healthy.
He's healthy.
He's upright.
He survived.
Yep.
Also, if you have yet to do your draft, Garrett Wilson is going to get thrown to 400 times. If that 2-drive thing has anything to say, like he took one step back and just threw it to Garrett Wilson. Garrett, go do your thing. That's just what he did. So
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's going to be really, really good. Anyways, go ahead with your sports
So
related draft.
I watched the last game of the preseason,
Mhm.
and that was the Saints the other night, and,
Right.
and they were paying homage to their late defensive
Mhm.
coordinator that was part of it. And I didn't know that the New Orleans team had a nickname.
Yeah.
The Dome Patrol.
That's not a great nickname.
The thing about it was I didn't even know they had a nickname.
Right. That's
And we're
part of
talking-
why it's such a bad nickname.
And so it made me think, I'm like, dude, this name is just out of nowhere, Dome
Mhm.
Patrol. And so I thought, okay, all right, what's the best group nickname for any of NFL history? So I mean, you've got your, almost your number one, number two locked down. Then it gets wide open with some of the names.
Well, I had my 1 and 2 locked down, and then you picked another one.
Well, you took the one I thought it was going to sneak into the fourth one, and it didn't happen for my second pick.
Gotcha. All right. So you came up with a sports draft,
Mhm.
so I get the very first pick, and I went with the super obvious one, and that is, of course,
You weren't alive. You can't take them.
the Steel Curtain. I know you were, but that's okay. This one I actually think you were.
I was
So
actually.
I usually
alive
make
first.
this joke for like the 30s and 40s, but you actually were the Steel Curtain for the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line. It just works perfect for that's what I look for with these nicknames is, does it make sense? Does it fit with the team?
Mhm.
And can you just say the name and a non-football fan would kind of guess what they did, or at least a football fan could kind of guess what they did in the past. Steel Curtain makes sense. It's a defense that just shuts you down. You just put the curtain over the offense. They're not going to go. It's made of steel. They're not moving. That was a Steel Curtain.
Yeah.
That's why it's a fantastic name for a defensive line.
Yeah, and Mean Joe Green.
Yeah. And
one of the
relevance of the era too.
Yeah, and just really good. Jack Hanna, what he did,
Mhm.
and unbelievable. So
Yeah.
great
Again,
team. Great team.
I'm going to already make this argument because I see that you've done ridiculous notes.
I did.
It is not the best group that had a nickname.
Right.
It is the best nickname. So I don't care what the team did. It's just how cool is the nickname. So you've been putting out all these, you're going to be spouting off Super Bowls and
I am.
and whatever. None of that matters, voters. Voters, if you're listening, none of that matters. It's not, once again, it's not the best group that had a nickname. It's the best group nickname.
Yeah, and yes, I agree with Eric. Yeah, it was Steel Curtain was actually come about at the same time with Soviets. So yeah,
Right.
For me, I'm gonna go with the Purple People Eaters. So Minnesota Viking times, Frank on the offensive side. Then you've got Alan Page, Jim Marshall, Gary Larson, big names that led them to 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
Come away with one. Named after a song, the Purple People Leaders that came out in 1958.
Doesn't that song talk about like they're all one-eyed and one-legged and
yes,
stuff?
it does.
How many of these people in this picture have one eye or one leg?
Bonus question. Here's your bonus part of this.
Okay.
So Sheb Woolley.
I won't have a clue.
Sheb Woolley.
Yeah.
I bet you Eric knows this. Sheb Woolley wrote this song in 1958.
Yep.
He had
the day of your birth. Yeah.
No, not quite. He had a starring role in a movie, a very iconic movie. Can you name the iconic movie that he was in? I think Eric could do it. I know Danny could do it. And it's one of my favorite. I'll lead into it. It's one of my favorite basketball movies.
One Horned. Sorry, One Horned. I haven't heard that song in forever. One Eye, One Horned. Do any of them have a horn?
But
Eric, family show. Before you have a comment. It's a family show, especially because we're on a college radio again. Calm down. Anyways.
But do you know that
I have no idea. Naked Gun.
Look at that. Eric Watkins.
Was he on Hoosiers?
He was.
Who is he?
He was one of the coaches that coached with Gene Hackman.
Really?
Yes.
I love Hoosiers.
That's one of my favorite movies. So there you
have to point him out because I haven't watched it in years, but
I'll pull him up, show you after the show.
Absolutely. All right, my second pick, a little bit newer.
Well, yeah, you were actually alive.
Well, but also we don't get nicknames anymore. We
Mhm.
don't get great
Yeah,
nicknames
not anymore. It doesn't seem
anymore.
That
A lot of the times, like your next pick, and I won't spoil it for you, just newer versions of units will get thrown into the same nickname from previous times. God, I hope you guys can't hear the piano. But obviously I was around for this one, but again, it just makes sense. How about the greatest show on turf? Because they were. The offense led by Kurt Warner right there, Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and so on and so forth.
Your picture doesn't even have Kurt Warner in it.
Because it's the guys he was throwing it to. Absolutely
Ricky
fantastic
Kroll,
team.
Isaac Bruce right there.
But they were putting up ridiculous numbers, ended up winning a Super Bowl in this era as well. But again, they really were the greatest show on turf. They were must-watch TV with how good they were offensively. The name absolutely makes sense. Has that little play on the greatest show on earth, all the carnival stuff, because they were the carnival that you were watching every Sunday. So the nickname is perfect.
And then what was it?
Oh, I got
2 years later, 3 years later, then they moved and they left St. Louis.
And then they were the least watched show on turf.
So I am going something that was a big name way early, before I was born. I'm clarifying that right now.
But I would let you know.
My dad
go ahead
knows
and give out this nickname, but I'm going to tell you something when you do this.
I'm going with the Monsters of the Midway. I mean, a huge way they described it, George Hallis and all that. But I learned a little bit about this one.
So I'm going to tell you right now, when I put in Monsters of the Midway NFL into the Google search to find images for this, all it brought up was Urlacher and that crew.
Really?
Because again, this nickname just continues to be regurgitated in Chicago because I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, and I really didn't know. I thought it was all part of the 40s with George Hallis and all that, but it came before that with the University of Chicago, and when they lost their program, then the Bears picked it up, and that's where it kind of did. And they, Bears had their big defenses in the 40s, but we don't get into that modern era of the Super Bowl until 67, 68, and so. It had that rebirth when, in 85, and they bring up 85 Bears, Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Gary Finnick, and the Fridge. I mean, but you're right. That name has just kind of stuck with them. It disappears for a little bit.
Well, when
then it comes back.
If the defense sucks, then they're not going to get that nickname. And then if a defense says, "Hey, we're pretty good. All right, we'll give you the nickname.
We'll give it back to you."
So you have to earn the nickname, but we can't think of a better one. I wish they would have called like the Urlacher group Monsters of the Midway Juniors, or the Junior Monsters. I don't know, just or part 2 or something. Just mix it up.
What was the movie? The Little Giants.
The Little Giants. Yeah.
There you go. The Little Bears.
We should have used that group. I don't think Urlacher was called a Little Bear.
Fumblewski.
What is it? The Emancipation of Puerto Rico?
Yeah, something
is that
like that.
One the play? Eric would know that one too. All right, my third pick, and I just had to look this up to see which came out first. By far the drink.
Was it the chicken or the egg?
It was the soda. I couldn't think of it, chicken or egg. But how about the Orange Crush for the Denver Broncos, late 70s, or the early 80s? Again, the bright orange uniforms make the names absolutely make sense. The defense was absolutely phenomenal, and they crushed you defensively. Obviously, the drink flipped the name as the Crush Orange, but that came out in the 1910s or something. Again, how was the debut of Orange Crush? Can you tell me?
Eric was right.
Annexation of Puerto Rico. Thank you, man. I have to tell you, it's been so long since I've watched Little Giants. I need to fix that.
Now that I said that, I gotta say it.
But yeah, Orange Crush, fantastic name for defense.
And the name that stuck with that defensive group has to be Mark Mecklenburg. One of the longest names, and it was stuck on the back of that jersey. Yes, I actually watched those guys in the late 70s, early 80s. So, and I'm going to the last one, and I got to watch these groups. These guys, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins, and I got to go with the Hogs. Offensive line for the Washington Redskins, Russ Grimm, Joe Jacoby, Mark May, and opening things up for the Diesel. The Diesel.
I'm so sad they did not just
John
change the
Riggins.
team name to this.
I-
The Washington Hogs would have been
That
great.
would have been great, but John Riggins, big year in '82. That's when they really got their push. After what John Riggins did in the Super Bowl, it was crazy, almost 170 yards rushing. But
and it's another nickname that fits. They were big guys, big hogs. Totally makes sense. So there you go. Those are our sports-related draft best group nicknames. Let us know which team was drafted better. I have the Steel Curtain, the Greatest Show on Turf, and Orange Crush. Robert has the Purple People Eaters, Monsters of the Midway, and the Hogs. Let us know in the comments on our Facebook or YouTube pages who you have this week. Let's move on to the NFC West preview, our last division, sir.
the last one, that's crazy.
Last year, San Francisco went 13-4, Seattle 9-8, the Rams 5-12, and Arizona went 4-13. Before we get to the team breakdowns, give me your player to watch and why.
Well, I kind of agree with Eric. We have to bring it up. I'm surprised you did not take the New York Sack Exchange.
It was
Mark
my
Gastineau.
honorable. It was my honorable mention. It was on the tip, but Orange Crush just fit too well. The New York Sack Exchange is a fantastic nickname as well. This is one that I'm slightly upset that he went your way than mine, just because the Steel Curtain is so good, and I like my nicknames. But you picking the Hogs with the last pick is a really good grab for your final
I think
one.
one-eyed, one-horned, fine people eaters.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit anything.
So you want my player to watch, huh?
Yes.
I'm actually write this down, Seahawk fans. I'm taking a Seahawk.
Oh no.
Yes, I'm taking Tariq Woolen, and they're calling him Reek now. But you go on to ESPN.com. You look at their depth chart.
Just because he's shortening his name doesn't mean you get to shorten everything else.
But that's how they have it written, is RIQ. But they've made some changes in Seattle, and they've brought back some players, and he is going to be one of those players I think that could be dominant for that defensive backfield, and they need some help there. And I think he's that guy that could actually do it and cover the number one guys.
For me, one player that could get lost in the San Francisco 49ers offensive threat list, I guess you could say, is Brandon Ayuk. And I think it's because of that he could have a fantastic year. Obviously, you got to have Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy all year for this to work out. But the defense really focusing on McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, both very fast and pass catchers out there, or just playmakers, I guess, for the 49ers. And Ayuk almost ends up being kind of a forgotten player for a 49ers team that, yes, when we talk about it, the quarterback questions are still there. But Ayuk is a very, very good receiver, and I really think he can have a breakout year this year.
Well, and that's the thing, is he did have a decent year in the second half. I mean, you hit on it 100%, because I did have him drafted in my fantasy league last year.
Okay.
And you don't put him in there because you got the other bigger names, and he has just done quite well. I think he can have that year. So, I mean, that's a great pick for.
Well, thank you.
So,
all right, let's move on to team breakdowns. First, I guess we have to talk about Arizona.
Do we have to?
Kind of. They added some people. They lost some people. They lost a lot of people. DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson, AJ Green. That is a great 1-2-3 punch. They are all gone from the Cardinals. They also lost a bunch of offensive linemen as well. Paris Johnson Jr. was their first pick. Got a couple of other pieces that aren't really going to set in well this season. It's looking like Kyler Murray is going to start the year on the PUP list for sure. But there are talks that he may not play at all. And then we were talking about, who was the quarterback they just cut today?
Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy was going to be the starter, and then he went, never mind.
Yeah.
He got cut today. This team's a mess.
Yeah.
Absolute, complete mess. Is there any chance they win more than 3 games?
So you're saying over under 3?
Over under 3.5.
I'm taking the under.
Me too. Joshua Dobbs will be their starting quarterback week 1. And then Clayton Tune is
Who?
their only other quarterback on their roster now. He was a rookie in the 5th round this year. Clayton Tune could be the savior of Arizona. However, we have to do it. We've done it for 28 teams now.
I laughed when I typed mine in.
The Arizona Cardinals. I almost said Diamondbacks. The Arizona Cardinals.
I'd rather watch the Diamondbacks right now.
The Arizona Diamondbacks may score more points in one game than the Cardinals will. But the Arizona Cardinals will win the NFC West if
Kyler Murray stays on the PUP list.
So he's going to stay on the PUP list, and you think they're going to win the division?
They could. That's the only way they can. I mean, give
I
him
think
time to
way
study.
More than that.
He's got to have time to study between it and playing his video games.
That makes no sense. That's not enough. I liked mine.
Yours was good too.
The Arizona Cardinals will win the NFC West if the Saudis buy the other 31 teams and they all leave the NFL. Then maybe the Cardinals have a chance to win the NFC West. Gives them a chance. And that's it. That's the only chance.
So you're saying there's a chance?
No, because Saudi's too busy with golf.
Don't get Eric fired up on Liv.
I have to. He didn't vote for me, so take that, Liv. The Rams added DeMarcus Robinson, but they lose Baker Mayfield, Allen Robinson, Leonard Floyd, Bobby Wagner, who went back to Seattle, and a cornerback named Jalen Ramsey. Are the Rams tanking this year? They still have some really good talent on this team.
They do have,
but they lost a lot. Are they tanking?
I don't see them tanking. I really don't. But, what this team is capable of and what they could do. I mean, you still got Aaron Donald. Yes, he's not going to play, I think, the first couple of weeks. You still got Cooper Kupp.
Yep. You got Matthew Stafford
Stafford's still there.
Cam Akers is okay.
There's still some good athletes. Tyler Higbee there. But I think they lost a little bit on defense, and that's what worries me with this group.
The defense lost some, and obviously Aaron Donald can't do it all. But the thing that really stands out to me on this team, have you seen the rest of the wide receiver room outside of Cooper Kupp? Stop getting distracted by the Pink Panther getting played on the piano outside, all right?
You've got...
I don't know if we can do the studio thing anymore because you were just way too distracted.
I am. There's just so much going on out there. There must be a party out there.
Focus, sir.
Who do you have other than Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson?
How about Ben Skowronek?
Don't know him.
How about Puka? Is it Nakua?
It must be.
I apologize, Puka, for your last name. Tutu Atwell, DeMarcus Robinson. That is your wide receiver room outside of Kupp and Jefferson.
I'm sorry, Matthew Stafford.
It's
going to be a training year for Sean McVay.
But the Rams will win the NFC West if they can somehow find that magic that they found in 2021. Obviously, something's got to hit defensively that was not hitting last year, and all the big stars are going to have to stay healthy. But they found the magic just 2 years ago.
Right?
Can they find it again this year? Probably not. But that's how they would win the division.
But and you said it with that wide receiving core. Cooper Kupp is that name there. He's got to stay healthy. He did have some time last year on the road, so I think can Kupp stay on the field?
Right.
The other part is how can McVay mold Stetson Bennett? I think Stetson Bennett gets a start or 2 or 3.
If Bennett is starting this year, they're not winning the division.
I think he gets a start or 2 or 3 in this.
I
think
do
they're
too,
going to be that bad.
That's not how they win the division.
No,
that's just what probably will happen because I don't think either of us believe that they're going to win the division here. All right, San Francisco, they add Sam Darnold, who now is your number 2 quarterback, as well as Chris Conley, get a defensive tackle in Javon Hargrave. They lose Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. They lose Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that in a minute. And they also lose linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. They didn't even have a draft pick till the 3rd round. They had 3 third-round picks, but they did pick a kicker as their second pick in that draft. So the
Dang,
49ers obviously feeling like they are set. Are they set? How do you feel?
I mean, they've got chances. I think they've. The big thing is Bosa going to be ready?
Mhm.
You know, he's still out, and whether or not
He will be.
he's ready to go. And that's
Mhm.
the tough thing. I mean, he has not played any here in the last little bit.
He doesn't need
You've
to.
got right at 11 days until the opening.
Oh, for them?
Yeah. So I think they're a Sunday night game, right?
Yeah.
So they've got a little bit of time. I think defensively, that's where I'm a little worried about this team.
Mhm. Yeah, we're 9 days now from the very first game.
Yeah, 9
Detroit
days from-
and Kansas City, which is absolutely insane. I like the 49ers. Again, we talked about, their offensive weapons. Can Brock Purdy stay healthy? Can he have the resurgence or the great year that he had late in that season? Or will people kind of figure out the film with him? That is yet to be seen, but I think with the weapons around him, he should be fine. Sam Darnold, will he get his third chance with a different team? I like the defense as well. I think on paper, this is the best team in the division. Though I do think that the gap between first and second in this division is closing. And I hate to say that because of the other team that's closing in on them. But with how weak I feel the NFC in general is, like the 49ers might be my Super Bowl favorite when we put those out there next week. But to me, the 49ers will win the NFC West if they don't have to use 13 different quarterbacks again. If they go through this quarterback carousel again, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I agree with the quarterbacks again. I don't know if it's 13, but
it was not, but it felt like it.
For me, Purdy's got to not have a sophomore slump. That hands down. Purdy has to be out there. He has to play well and not suck, basically.
And then finally, our 32nd team that we will talk about here on the R&R Sports Report is those Seattle Seahawks. We have not had a lot of Seahawks supporters chiming in throughout all these previews. We'll see if they just come out of the word work because I said the team name. But they get Bobby Wagner back. I think that'll be really big for them. They also get linebacker Devin Bush and defensive end Mario Edwards. They do lose Rashad Penny, who's now with the Eagles. I think that's a big loss for them because he was. And I do like the young running back that they were able to pick up. They also lose defensive end Bruce Irvin. Draft was really big for them. They had 2 first-round picks. They used the first one on cornerback Devin Witherspoon, and then the second one on the wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, who then broke, was it his arm or his hand? But he should miss, he might miss the first week or two, and after that, he should be pretty good. But running back Zach Charbonnet in the second round could be a really good 1-2 punch with Kenneth Walker. But to me, it really just comes down to Geno Smith. He won the comeback player of the year because he came back from, I'm still trying to figure out what he came back from other than sucking. But it's just him. If he can play well, I think Seattle is going to be a contender. If he kind of falls back into what he did with both New York teams, I think the Seahawks could have issues. Or if Smith starts having issues, does Pete Carroll have that quick trigger finger to Drew Lock, who they traded for in the Russell Wilson trade?
They've got some talent. And if you go back to our power rankings that we did 3 weeks ago, and I talked about it in our power rankings,
right?
They could easily have the best 3 receivers in the NFC,
right?
Hands down, with Metcalf, Lockett, and Njigba. But excuse me, but it depends on if he gets hurt.
Because you struggled saying his last name, and then you just did it anyway.
Cough. But whether he not comes back from injuries, but the other thing, Kenneth Walker has to be that lead. You've got 2 rookie guys behind him in McIntosh and Charbonnet, but then you got DJ Dallas. So DJ, how he rolls into this plan is a little hazy. So you've got youth in that running back position. It is going to be interesting to see how the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll, runs with this offense.
Right, for sure. For Seattle, they will win the NFC West if Geno Smith continues his quote-unquote comeback tour. and becomes a top tier quarterback, and the defense becomes a top 5 unit. It's possible. Jamal Adams he's just not fit with the Seahawks. A lot of that has been injuries as well ever since they traded the Jets for him. Obviously, getting Bobby Wagner, I think, is a really big piece. They were able to get a lot of backups in this draft. So I think Pete Carroll is creating something again. It's not going to be the Legion of Boom, which is another great nickname, I think, for a unit in football, but neither of us want to pick a Seahawk. That was for sure. I don't think they're going to be Legion of Boom worthy, but if they're solid enough, I think they can contend with the 49ers.
Yeah, and that leads into mine and what I said. Seattle defense has to channel their inner Legion of Boom. They've got to get that defense.
I did not even read that.
You didn't,
which is the funniest thing.
I said they've got to channel it, and that's the thing. That's half the reason I took Woolen.
I apologize for taking that from you. I feel bad,
but you're exactly right. Jamal Adams, I think, is a little bit on the weak side of that defensive backfield, but you've got Quandre Diggs, really good safety. Witherspoon, second season. I think this team will get better.
Right.
It's whether or not they can channel that Richard Sherman and those guys from 5 years ago.
I feel like it's longer than that by now.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into your NFC West predictions. I do have the 49ers still winning this division, but I think Seattle could battle for a wild card spot.
I do too.
And then the Rams and Cardinals will finish 3rd and 4th, and the Cardinals will most likely be your first pick.
I'm going to agree with you 100% all the way through.
There you go. We have now predicted all 8 divisions. Next week, we will fill out the rest of our playoff board, remind you of our 4 division winners, and then give you the 3 wild cards on each side. We'll give you the AFC and NFC championship games, and then your Super Bowl, as well as, all of the NFL award winners. And we'll probably hit on some college football. Week 1 is this week. We'll get into some games here just coming up, but maybe we'll give some
what do you
playoff
think is
spots.
The biggest college football game of the week? Out of every,
we'll get to it.
There's a lot of them.
We predicted it.
Yeah.
We'll predict that game.
I think there's one we missed.
All right. You'll bring it up here in a second. You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on LCWR, which you can stream live on LCWarriorRadio.com. You can watch us live as well on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Just check out R&R Sports Report. We appreciate all of your love and support. And let's move on to some more football news very quickly, because there was a lot of news and we sort of got to get to the rest of the show. But Jonathan Taylor will stay with the Colts. They were unable to make a deal. It seemed like the Dolphins were the closest to make that deal. And he will, this was the bigger news, he will start the season on the PUP list, which means he misses the first 4 weeks of the year. So those that drafted him in their fantasy leagues with their first pick, that's a big hit for them. Trey Lance got traded to the Dallas Cowboys. How shocked were you when that news hit?
After they basically said, you're not going to be, you're going to sit behind Brock Purdy, and now you're going to actually sit number 3.
Right.
I think that was a huge shock. Did you watch Benchwarmer's comments of how this went down? He was kind of funny with it, but I think this might be a good move for him. Maybe something better can happen with him being under.
I don't know how it did get any better. He's going to be the third string over there, as he's going to be a third string.
I think he's going to get.
49ers.
I think he's going to get a little bit more coaching there.
I highly doubt it. Just Trey Lance has been a complete bust. It was just weird that he went to Dallas. Nick Foles gets traded to the Titans. No one cares. Will Lutz goes to Denver. No one cares. I think more people care about Will Lutz, the kicker, than they do Nick Foles, which you also put as a kicker in our notes, by the way, which is fantastic to me.
I was typing a whole bunch.
Buffalo defensive end Von Miller will also start the season on the PUP list. That means he'll miss the first 4 games, which, as a Jets fan, I'm very excited about, because the Jets start the season on Monday against on the first Monday night against the Bills. That one's tough. Kyler Murray, as we talked about earlier, will also start the season on the PUP list, and there's a good chance he may miss the entire season. There was obviously the big cut down day. They used to cut down as they went through the preseason. Now with the one less preseason game, They just wait till the end and cut everybody in one go.
And the New England did that. They cut everybody. They took that was the funniest
Was it Nick?
one.
Did you even put the wrong guy? Or was it Nick Folk?
What?
That got traded to the Titans, not Nick Foles. Was
Yeah.
it kicker Nick Folk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You picked Nick Foles.
Well,
so it was actually got the kicker right. You
Yeah.
just got the wrong last name
no,
right. There you go.
The funniest one I saw today, and I laughed at it, and I
Okay.
went and looked at the depth chart afterwards. The New England Patriots cut all of their backup quarterbacks.
Did they? I didn't even see that.
They cut all 3 of their backups.
I bet Zappy
Zappe,
comes back.
Cunningham and Trace McSorley.
I did not see that.
Oh, yeah, and you look at their depth chart. There's only one, and it's Mac Jones.
I think they only did that because everyone was questioning if Zappy was going to take over the
think
starting role for Mac Jones. So they went, fine, he's our only quarterback.
Well, I think they and a lot of these teams do this.
Mhm.
They'll restructure their contract, bring him right back in.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens with this one. But I was shocked. I mean, all 3 of your quarterbacks go bye-bye.
Weird.
Other than your starter.
Absolutely weird. A couple other ones we talked about earlier. Quarterback Colt McCoy gets cut from the Cardinals. Jamison Crowder gets cut from the Giants. He's been a journeyman. I expect him to be picked up somewhere else. And running backs continue to get all the hate. Melvin Gordon is gone from your Baltimore Ravens. Saquon Barkley wants to stay in New York. Will he?
It's interesting. He talked to some reporters from the Post on Sunday. He said he wants to have his career there. So hopefully they can get some kind of deal done other than him signing his 1-year, 10-year.
Right.
It'll be interesting.
And then we had our second preseason game getting stopped by injury. I'm glad they've just got to the point where a scary injury like this happens. And you know what? We don't need to play
We just got
the rest of the game.
Just got to stop him. And then David Davis gets cut by the.
Well, he was never going to
Dolphins.
make the team anyways. Hopefully they still take care
Right.
of him. But hopefully Davis for Miami is okay. He got hurt in the fourth quarter in a game against Jacksonville. All right, let's get on to our football pick. And we did this last year.
Right.
You had a great comeback victory over the season. I jumped out on you and you did not want to do this segment anymore because I had such a big lead. And then all of a sudden the lead just disappeared and then you just crushed me by the end of it. So congratulations to you. We'll do 5 high school games, 5 college games this week. I think we'll expand it come next week. But partially we just didn't have a ton of time to put it in here, and partially I just didn't have time.
We haven't
to
seen any
pick up
Washington.
other
We haven't
stuff.
seen any Washington teams either. So
Right.
I mean, that's a big one too.
So we, as the season goes, we will expand this, possibly 10 college, 10 high school each week that we will get to. But right now, half and half. Let's get to the high school first. Lewiston, who lost their first game of the year, takes on Capital, who's lost their first 2 games this year. But Lewiston does have to travel, as you said, back to Southern Idaho. I'm going to take the Bengals just because I think there's more to this team than what we saw last weekend when they took on that Utah team that's already played twice. And Capital just seems like they are down this year.
Right. And I think this is the same thing that happened last year. Pancari and Steele figured things out and adjust that offense a lot. And I think they handle Capital quite well. This could be Capital's year of being down, way down.
Lapway is at Kamei. I think this will be one of the better games this week. Lapway lost a lot of players, but did get their win.
Huge win.
Last week when they, let me go back and get the actual score. They beat Timberline 58-14. Timberline is just a team. I think they had like 12 or 13 kids on that squad. They're just not quite up to that level, but it was still nice to see Lapway, bounce back from losing all those players. Kamei is ranked 3rd in all of the Class 1A as far as the coaches polls go. So the media poll goes. So I'm going to go with Kamei to get the win at home.
I think Lapway is having something to prove with losing everybody. And I think they're going to keep playing. I think after this last week, there's a good chance that they can handle Kamei. So here's our first pick different. So I'm going to take Lapway.
Clarkston gets their season debut at Moscow, who won their first game in over 2 years. Does Moscow start 2-0, or how do your Bantams look?
I don't know. I didn't talk to Pat Laney, the new AD up in Moscow. He used to be down here at Sacagawea, now up in Moscow running AD and stuff. I didn't have a chance to talk to him today. Did talk to him, but not about that. But Clarkson is looking extremely well. The talent that they've got, I think the Bantams are just way too much for Moscow.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bantams as well. It'd be really cool to see Moscow, after not winning for all of last year, to start out 2-0. It would be really great for them. I just don't see it. Give me the Bantams as well. Pullman will take on Lakeland, who's already played 2 games this year and have put on defensive master classes so far, including against the 5A school of Lake City last week. Pullman, I just got off the phone with David Coffer, their head coach, before coming down here to the studio. I'll have that preview in Thursday's paper, I think, of the Tribune. I think that's when that will all get posted. He really likes his team. Obviously, they have a lot of offensive returners, Pewaukee being, I think, the key one for them. Their defense will be a little bit different. Their entire linebacker core has been changed, but they did bring in a lot of names where now they can play far fewer two-way players and hopefully stay a bit rested. But we saw that with Lewiston taking on the Utah team, a team that's played twice against a team playing their first game. Lakeland's defense looks so good right now, so give me Lakeland.
And I haven't seen their offense, but Pullman has taken a step back over the last couple of years. Pewaukee is going to be really good for them. Just not having the numbers. So it's nice to hear that Hoffer's talking about having the numbers back. So that's a good thing for the Greyhounds. I think Lakeland is just too much for them, so I'm gonna go that way, but I think it'll be competitive.
All right, final high school pick this week. Asotin starts off their season at Liberty. I would like to see Asotin have the bounce back. They had the article, I think, in today's paper about the Panthers. He's talking the same thing about really looking for that bounce back. This was a team that I was able to do play-by-play for a year, or at least color for a year. And it was really fun to watch. That ground and pound offense that they always do kind of have lost their numbers over the last couple of years. And some of the big guys up front have struggled the past couple of seasons. But I would love to see them bounce back. And hopefully I'm incorrect here, but Liberty took care of them last year. I'm going to pick Liberty here at home for the season opener.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Liberty always has been really well. But, Coach Jim Holman talked about it, friend of the show. He's been on the show with us. I think it's his year to bounce them back and get some real good offensive line. I think that's where they slacked a little bit this last year, but I think they can make the change and get there.
All right, let's get into the college games. And I picked one game every day. It won't be like this every time, but figured we'd have a little bit of fun. On Thursday, Florida goes on the road and takes on number 14 Utah. That was at 5 p.m. on ESPN. Give me the Utes.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Utes, even though I really was leaning, but I looked at where they were playing home and away. I'm gonna stay with Utah, even though I think Florida will have a decent season.
On Friday, Stanford has to travel all the way down to Hawaii
to
take on the Warriors. That one's at 8 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. As much as I want to take Hawaii because I'm worried about Stanford playing their first game, traveling to beautiful Hawaii before their game, maybe a little distracted, I'm going to take Stanford.
And their aired out offense in Hawaii is still the same way. I wanted to, but I think Stanford's just too much for Hawaii.
Number 21, North Carolina is against South Carolina on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. on ABC. I almost took the upset with South Carolina, but give me the Tar Heels.
I think Tar Heels will roll into South Carolina and take care of business.
And what I thought was the game of the week on Sunday, number 5 LSU takes on number 8 Florida State, 4:30 p.m. on ABC. Give me the Tigers here.
I think you are right. This is the game of the week, but I was back and forth just because it was in Florida. I almost went, but I would get yelled at by my wife if I didn't take LSU. So I'm taking LSU.
And then on Monday, number 9 Clemson travels to take on Duke, 5 p.m. on ESPN. Duke's never got a good football team. I know they've made bowl games and stuff, but I can't take them. Give me Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson is just going to be way too strong.
Hey, what was the other game that you
wanted? The one that I thought you were going to go with, not ranked, versus number 17. I figured you were going to take Coach Prime and his debut in Colorado against TCU, number 17.
I don't think they have a chance. I just don't think they have a chance.
I mean, with everything they've revamped and all that, it'd be interesting to see how that game plays out. It is a morning game on Saturday morning, 9:00. But it'll be interesting to see how things happen.
I just can't see it.
Maybe I'm falling into the hype. Maybe that's, but it's college football. It's football all the time now, and for the next how many weeks?
All right, get to your Major League Baseball scoreboard one more time. As finishing things up, Tampa Bay did beat Miami 11-2. Baltimore took care of the White Sox 9-3. Washington held on to take out Toronto 5-4. Houston over Boston 6-2. Cleveland with a 4-2 victory over the Twins. San Diego Padres lost. It's just they just can't do it. They lose in 10 innings to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals win that one 6-5. Cubs with a 1-0 shutout over Milwaukee, cutting in to their division lead. Going on still, Pittsburgh with a 6-1 lead over the Royals going to the bottom of the ninth. Braves with a 3-1 lead over the Rockies in the seventh. Your Seattle Mariners now down 3-0 against the Athletics. That one in the top of the fourth. The Athletics have 2 runners on with 2 out. Are you getting nervous yet?
Nah, not yet.
Okay. San Francisco with a 5-0 lead over Cincinnati going to the fourth inning, and Dodgers already up 3-0 over Arizona. That one in just the second inning. Little League World Series.
Oh, man.
What a cool way for California to win the entire thing with the walk-off home run.
It was great, but to play against Kearsarge and what they were to get where they were at to come back and to put themselves in a win. We talked about
were they down 4?
They were down
or 3 or 4.
Yeah, and then they got back and hit a 2-run shot to put themselves into the win. But El Segundo out of California come away with a 6-5 win. Louis Lappy was intentionally walked his time before, comes up in the bottom of the 6th inning or bottom of the 6th inning and hits a home run on the second pitch.
Yep.
And I had put first, but it was the second pitch, but unbelievable. They were down to Kearsarge by 4 or Kearsarge was down and they came back and they hit a grand slam by Nasir El Oasis. Tried that one. I know they tried to get Perez to say that name. It was crazy. And they, they gave up a grand slam and it made it into a close game. It was a phenomenal week and a half to watch of Little League Baseball. Great games.
Yeah, well, watching the highlights of that championship game and him hitting the home run to win it. And obviously his dad was kind of overcome with emotions. Just very, very cool moment. Something he is going. I've just realized we have the NFC West preview up here still. That's a great job by me. I'm a great producer. But yeah, absolutely fantastic way. And one of those things that he will be talking about for the rest of his life. Little League World Series is just so much fun to watch. All right, let's get into it. Your Aussie Rules football regular season has come and gone. Western needed to win and get help. They were able to get the win.
All right.
It was a pretty good game with you guys for a little bit.
And
then it was no longer. Western was able to get the win 104-79. They needed GWS to lose to Carleton. I watched this game
on Sunday. I mean, it was a Sunday early morning.
It was early morning, and we were at work very, very late. I did not get off work till like 4:30. So I was able to watch most of this at work. First half was great. Back and forth action. Kept messaging Eric, but I'm sure he was asleep at that time if he was nervous. And then that third quarter, GWS just came out and just blitzkrieged Carleton at the 105-73 win. And you knew Carleton was really trying to win that game as they were trying to have the momentum going in, to the finals. But the big result, obviously that decided playoff spots.
Yep. But
the big game to me was North Melbourne losing the wooden spoon as they take out Gold Coast 132-97. How clutch was that?
And that was the big conversation in a few videos I've watched. Losing this first number 1 overall pick. From what I'm understanding, this guy that should be going number 1 is going to be a major stud.
Well, that never affects any team losing the number 1 pick. Like the Jets lost their chance to get Trevor Lawrence. That never comes back to bite you. Ever. But But yeah, no wooden spoon.
Yeah.
For Harry's North Melbourne Roos. So congratulations to them again. As you said, hopefully it's worth it. My Hawthorne Hawks finished 16th. Your Geelong Cats finished 12th. So both of our teams hoping to have better showings next year.
Go from winning it last year to 12th. That's a big jump.
Yep.
So.
AFL will take a week off before they start their finals. Action 8 teams remain again. If you've never watched Aussie Rules football, I love their playoff format. It really matters if you're in the top 4 or bottom 4, as they kind of break them up and then things kind of work their way out. We'll look at the elimination games first. Right. We will predict them next week. But just to give you an idea, your elimination games will both take place for us on Friday, September 8th. Carlton will take on Sydney at 2:50 a.m. Pacific time, and then St. Kilda will take on GWS at 10:20 p.m. Pacific time.
And Fox have done really well, so I'm hoping that both of those games.
You got to think all four. Yeah. You got to think all 4 at this point are going to be on at least FS2.
Right.
And then your 2, I always forget. Is it prelim finals? I forget what they call because obviously it's elimination finals for the 2 elimination games. I always forget what this portion is. Maybe Eric can let us know. But the top 4 teams, all 4 teams will continue on in the playoffs, but the winners are able to move on to the semifinals. Number 1 seed Collingwood will take on number 4 seed Melbourne on Thursday at 2:20 a.m. Pacific time. And then Saturday at 2:25 a.m. Pacific time is number 2 Brisbane versus number 3 Port Adelaide. Qualifying finals. Thank you so much. I knew Eric would know. So, they have a name for all of it. It's what Aussies do. But I just forget that top group. But it's going to be a lot of really, really good matchups. I'm super stoked to watch Carlton and Sydney in an elimination game. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I still think your champion is going to come from those 2 elimination games. I don't think the champion's coming from the top 4.
You really? Oh, especially the way Collingwood played over the last couple of weeks. It'll be interesting.
Oh, shakeups with the Dogs. Did they fire their coach that you were hoping for? Is that the shakeup? That I've not seen that news
either
just yet. We're getting close to getting back into some more PBA tournaments. Obviously, they've been doing a lot of regionals, but the Storm Lucky Larson Masters will take place between September 1st and 10th. I think the Lucy just happened.
And then the big,
no, it's just assistants. Okay.
And then the big, the team one comes up right after this one. So bowling back in action with that.
Getting things going. Just bought myself a new bowling ball for this season. I'm ready to go. Joined the Thursday League.
Listen, I wish I would, but I had another incident out on the golf course. I broke my driver last Wednesday. So instead of getting a bowling ball, I'm going to have to get a new driver.
Yeah. Are you still bowling Thursdays?
Every other Thursday. Actually, tonight, our friend Katie Rose texted me, said, I have things going the first week. Can you bowl for me? So I'll be bowling the first 2 weeks. So
there you go. Golf, by the way, you told me incorrect about the Tour Championship.
I did.
The winner of this tournament is your winner.
Right.
But the points mattered as far as getting
player of the year.
Well, no, it mattered as far as getting extra shots and.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone started at weird standings. Again, I hate that we have a playoff in golf.
Scotty Scheffler, 10 strokes, and he finishes at 11 under. So he had
under the whole time.
He had a rough weekend, but Victor Hovland. Oh my God, the way this guy played even last week, shooting 61 to win that tournament, and then coming into what he did this week, just crazy to watch him and Schauffele back and forth on Sunday. 6 strokes between the two of them. And Schauffele made it interesting, cut it to 3 at one point, but Victor was just really spot on, shooting 63. Xander Schauffele, 62. Of low numbers. But this is the biggest thing about Victor Hovland, and I think he could be the next big thing. But 23 tournaments started, missed 0 cuts. He made every one of his cuts, 18 top 25s. He did have 4 wins. The PGA only recognizes certain ones. He had 3 major wins, but that dude's walking away with $18 million.
I think he's okay. I don't think he's too upset about not
No,
getting
I think
one
he's a good
title
guy.
recognized by the PGA.
So the biggest thing coming up now that this finished up, there is
Mhm.
another small tournament, but we start talking about Ryder Cup. So hopefully over the next week, we will see those teams finally
Right.
take place in shape of who's going to be playing for Europe and who will be playing for the United States.
All right, let's move on to NASCAR as the regular season is done there. Chris Buescher ends up winning the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona, and it was as wild of a race as you would have expected at Daytona. Ryan Blaney got in a crazy wreck while leading the pack. It wasn't anything of his doing. I forget who was on the outside at the time. Got pushed, got wiggled, and he came down into Blaney. Very hard hit for Ryan there as he hit the outside wall. I told you as you watched it. He is so lucky that they have made so much advancement in safety protocols in NASCAR. The safer barrier, if you have not seen this clip, go watch it. The entire safer barrier moves at that point. He hit it so hard. They showed the in-car camera, and you said it doesn't even look like he moves. Obviously, he felt the impact for sure, but just his head's not moving anywhere. And so very, very lucky
It
for Ryan
honestly
Blaney.
reminded me when I watched it, the first thing I came to my mind, and then this any wreck anymore, was Dale Earnhardt in 2001. I mean, watching how he bent up and then
it was
straight into the wall.
Kind of the same angle. Obviously, it's a quite different spot on the track, but still a very violent hit for him. And then the more fantastical one, I guess you could say, the over-the-top one was Ryan Preece, who ended up spinning 10 or 11 times. Can we please, we talk about getting rid of preseason in the NFL. Can we please get rid of grass on super speedways? Because Ryan Preece gets hit, goes down into his teammate actually, and goes into the infield on the backstretch, and was totally fine until his car hit the grass
and then
and ended up flipping and going all over the place. These cars are not supposed to do this. And the commentators during the race were basically going, it looks like it's a matchstick car getting flipped around. It looked like a toy getting thrown around. You forget that these things are over a ton. And it's just flipping all over the place. Get rid of grass.
The one angle I told you, once he goes up and the grass gets kicked up, you don't see him again. I didn't see it until the other angle comes around and you see it from him rolling into the camera.
It's one of those weird things too, because you hear a lot of NASCAR drivers and they talk about when they flip it and what it's like, or what kind of wrecks are worse. And they said, I'd much rather barrel roll than go straight into the walls. But for Preece, he was doing the barrel rolls, but each barrel roll, he was coming back down to earth. It wasn't like he barrel rolled and landed and he was done. Like each barrel roll, he was
getting higher,
hitting the ground harder and getting higher up into the air for the next couple of spins. It was just a scary wreck. He was taken to the hospital and released the next day, and hopefully everything is okay with Preece. But it was Buescher first, Keselowski second, Almirola third. Chase Elliott had to win to make it into the playoffs. He did not. He finished fourth, and Logano finished fifth. So your playoff drivers going into the Cookout Southern 500 in Darlington are William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney. What four drivers get knocked out in the first three races?
I'm just throwing it out here. I have not 100% sure where we're at. 1, 2, 3.
These are in order.
So
slight point changes throughout. I didn't put those in there.
I would say the four that fall out, probably Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain. I think Blaney has. I think Blaney comes back and proves something after having a major wreck.
Excuse me, I've missed four because I forgot they do the cutoff. So hold on one second. There's four other racers in the playoffs. I always forget when you go to the NASCAR site, they already put the cutoff. So excuse me, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Bubba Wallace are also in. Again, they go, here's where the next cutoff would be, and that's what I put in.
I say Bubba is going to have a down year, so I'm going to take Bubba.
He's in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think
that's not a down year.
I think he falls out of racing, so probably Michael McDowell. And I'm going to stay with Kyler Reddick.
For me, I'm with you with Bubba. He has not had fantastic finishes lately. And he's definitely struggled. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I think, is another one. Same with Michael McDowell. I think he's an easy one to pick. Usually you have one that's a big surprise. So, I mean, is Logano going to struggle finally and fall out of it? That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to say Logano as well, because usually you're going to have a big name that you think could be a contender and ends up not being one. They go to Darlington next week. The 3 playoff races in this stage is Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol. All right, that's going to do it. Our first studio show back.
Yeah.
It'll be again next week. We will talk about Lewiston and Clarkston and Asotin football getting things going. Lewiston will be playing their second game. We'll have more on LC volleyball as they are back at home going full swing now for their conference play.
They got Northwest and Evergreen State, so come watch.
Yeah, definitely come out to the P1 FCU Activity Center Friday and Saturday. The crowd the first weekend was absolutely phenomenal. Also, I know he doesn't watch the show, but we hope little Richie gets better soon. He played in his first LC Loggers game and messed up his knee pretty good. So hopefully he is healing up after that one.
He better. He's got bowling in 11 days.
I don't know if he's going to have bowling in 11 days. I don't know if you've seen his knee.
I have not seen him yet. I haven't seen him since the LC volleyball. There,
but again, hopefully he is doing okay. And again, we will give you our final predictions, give you who we think are going to win the Super Bowl and the NCAA playoffs.
It'll be interesting.
I don't even know yet. We're a week away from making these predictions, and I can't tell you.
Maybe we need another week of preseason.
No, we're done. The preseason, thank God we don't have any games to worry about this week. But there you go. That is going to do it again. If you are listening on LCWR, streaming live on lcwarriorradio.com, thank you so much for listening to us for the very first time on that platform. You can watch us if you want, and it's more about commenting. I apologize for those that have to watch our ugly faces for 2 hours, but if you want to comment with us, you go to the Facebook and YouTube pages, just look up R&R Sports Report. And those watching live, if you are ever away from your computer and you want to pull it up on your phone and just be able to listen while you do other things, you can go to lcwarriorradio.com. They continue to improve on that website. Just glad that they got something working again. They finally were able to find a good streaming site there as well. Things will continue to improve. A new soundboard will come in here soon. Everything will be absolutely
excited for the change.
Fantastic. This is our 4th year now.
I just can't believe
I'm at LC.
146 episodes in.
And close to 150. Absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. We will see you next week. But until then, this is Randy. That's Robert. This is the R&R Sports Report. And until next Tuesday, we are